Good evening. My name is Peter Bobcaygeon. I am the Secretary of the Citizens for Direct Democracy, and this video will be close to your hearts. I've entitled it Fighting City Hall, and I know that at various times in your life you've had problems with City over bills, taxation, holes in the pavement and so on. So this may be of interest to you, why we fight City Hall and what we can do about it. So there we are, the big city boxer fighting us who are small. And why are the cities so big? Well, of course, they use our tax money to get the best solicitors and the best legal arguments, and generally they are well trained. When we fight them as individuals, single people, and generally, not unexpectedly, we get crushed. But there is a new wave coming in world politics, and I heard Boris Johnson say this the other day. The people are our bosses. That has to get through to all leaders of municipalities and get through to them soon. So who is in our corner when we do have a problem? To whom can we go? Well, you might think that you could go to some of the ministry people like the Freedom of Information and so on, and that they would take up our case and fight for us. Let's see if that is true. Let's start with the Integrity Commissioner. Integrity is a key element of anybody in public service. So we wrote to the Integrity Commissioner and we asked him if he would look into certain matters which we found disagreeable in the city and very questionable things. And what do we get back? A letter from him there. I've expanded the key line and it says, "The Office of the Integrity Commissioner does not have jurisdictions over municipal matters." So that means integrity is of no value to them. That is very, very discouraging for the people. Let's look on. And we see that even if we were to make a complaint to the Integrity Commissioner, that would have to go through the clerk's office at the municipality. The clerk is an employee of ours. She is within the bureaucracy of the city, and we have to send our inquiries to her. I tried to get something directly to the Integrity Commissioner and I was rebuffed. And in any case, the only thing he can do is carry out an investigation under the Councillor Code of Conduct and the Municipal Conflict of Interest Act. Those are things which are internal to the municipality and they give the people no foothold to take on the city at all. Now, if we look at this a bit further, we say that the city has to appoint an Integrity Commissioner, which they have just recently done. And who does he report to? Not to the people, he reports to council. And what does he do? He carries out functions which are assigned by the municipality, not assigned by the people. I just highlighted D down there in red because this is one of the things that irritates me, is the amount of money we spend on our bureaucracy, and they make silly things like that. Point A, point B, followed by point D. It shows a scorn of accuracy which is troubling, especially when they spend $120 million of our money. So the next thing to do is to take the matter to the Ministry of Municipal Affairs and Housing, who you'd think would have something to do with this. And that bullet there says, discuss your concerns and recommendations regarding the relationship between citizens and the local municipalities. That is what we wanted to do. We wanted to meet with them and decide how that could be obtained. But what comes back? I have to recognise that municipalities are responsible and accountable. And of course, as soon as I see responsible and accountable, I have to chuckle. They are governments with authority to make decisions on matters within their own jurisdiction. and everything is within their own jurisdiction, so they have the sole responsibility of making decisions, and once again the people have no say. Well, let's move on to the freedom of information. You'd think that that would be a good place to start, to get some information from the municipality. But they say the Ministry of Municipal Affairs does not have oversight of City of Kauata's freedom of information requests. So if we ask for information, we will not necessarily get it unless the city feels that we're going to take the case to court. So the only way that these things work is if officials in the government are prepared to rat on each other. If they rat on each other, then they can go to one of those officials and they will investigate it. But I've never heard of one government official ratting on another. Now, the scope of this is restricted to councillors. And that in itself is a problem, because some of the problems are created by the staff. So even if a member of council wanted to call down one of the other members and say, I don't think you did something really nice there, they're not allowed to, because that breaks the bylaw. They are not allowed to speak disrespectfully or negatively about the corporation or council's decisions. So you have 8 councillors sitting there and they're wringing their hands because they know some of the decisions made by council are bad, and yet they're not allowed to say anything about them by bylaw. Now, it says under disclosure that any employee, councillor, member, councillor, or a member of the public has a right. Now, in fact, if you were listening to the previous stuff, you realise we do not have that right. Only council members have that right. And the Integrity Commissioner has an obligation to conduct an independent investigation. But he doesn't, because we tried that route and he will not do it. He turns it straight back to the Integrity Commissioner in the municipality, who has no obligation to the people. Now, the case in point was this rather large book full of material and allegations and facts and figures, and it was 2 centimetres thick and it had 120 pages. We felt sure that that would be taken away and investigated either by the Ministry of the Municipalities or one of the other higher-ups. But what in fact happened? It got as far as the clerk's office, who, after reviewing 120 pages, appears there's no action to be taken. And that cannot be challenged. There's no way of challenging that unless we are prepared to go to court. So, in reality, when you fight City Hall, the people have no advocate in government who will investigate complaints. You can complain as much as you like. There's nobody in government who will take up your cause. There is no one is in our corner. Now, how did this come about? Well, it's an attitude. It's a kind of attitude going back hundreds, if not thousands of years, where the king starts off and the king owns everything. So he sends off his forces to Canada and he conquers Canada and has a war with the French and so on and so forth. But at the end of the day, he gives power to Canada as a dominion. And their attitude is always, as is the king's, to rule and exploit. So now Canada rules and exploits. And it gives power to Ontario and the other provinces to rule and exploit. And they in turn give the same power to the municipalities. And that is why we are ruled and we are exploited. It is as simple as that. You have to change the attitude completely. Now, you may think that in the Charter of Rights and Freedoms there might be some help. But as you read through it, you have all kinds of rights. But one right you do not have is the right to participate in the decisions of Parliament. And you can only do that by elections every 4 years. So that is all there. But much of the Charter of Rights and Freedoms, as you know, is to do with the preservation of the French language and nothing to do with democracy at all. So there's only one solution. We have to elect councillors who are entirely different sorts of people from whom we have right now. And they must be people who truly believe that the people are the bosses, and they must use referendums to decide issues, and they must create taxpayer oversight committees for each department of government. And then we need local committees to focus on and have the power to resolve local issues. We need to run the city as a business with a real bottom line so that we can become bankrupt and not just go into more debt. We need to take action against the staff who we have found are over budget on projects. They do it consistently and nothing happens. They do not complete projects on time. And again, nothing happens. We need to repeal all those bylaws that enforce arbitrary costs for non-services, such as the forced hookups and the preloading of water bills. And they must respect property rights. When we purchase a property, it is our property, not the city's. And we change the city's attitude from enforcement to assistance. All we do is create more bylaw enforcement officers as it becomes a police state. And we must reduce the use of contracted professional services, which cost us a fortune. So those are the kinds of people you look for when you're choosing one in the next election, and you must ask them, and they must promise to do these things. And we, the Citizens for Direct Democracy, will run candidates who make that promise. Thank you. Well, I hope you found that interesting. The situation is very clear. You cannot do anything about City Hall until you change the people you elect. You must elect people who truly believe that they serve the people absolutely. And that will not happen soon. As you know, I ran for mayor on that platform and did not get enough votes to get in. But perhaps in the next election, you will all think again. Thank you.